He is standing outside a building he has never entered, in a city he has never visited, having arrived by RAF transport from Aberdeenshire 48 hours earlier. No blueprints, no inside contact. The Nazis have sealed the safe, and everything the Allies need to know about the German defensive line in southern Italy is locked inside it. A career criminal from a Lanarkshire mining village is their solution to this problem. A man who had broken out of the most secure prison in Scotland 5 separate times. The British government had decided that his particular talent was, under the circumstances, a national asset. What they had not decided, what they never publicly addressed, was what they owed him for it. His name was Johnny Ramensky. Jonas Ramanauskas was born in 1906 in Glenboig, a mining village in Lanarkshire, the kind of place where the streets were brick dust red and the men came home black. His parents were Lithuanian immigrants, part of a wave that had settled in the Scottish industrial belt around the turn of the century. His father died when Johnny was still a child. At 14, he was sleeping in a lodging house on Glasgow's Gascube Road, a long corridor of single beds and shared coal heat that housed the city's itinerant poor, and working whatever casual labour the scrapyards on the north side would take. He shortened his name. He became Johnny Ramensky, and then, because Scotland has always had a gift for compression, simply Gentle Johnny, though the name came later and it was not the police who gave it to him. By his 20s, Ramensky had developed a skill that set him apart from ordinary thieves. He could open a safe without explosives, without the crude percussion of a crowbar, and almost without sound. He had taught himself to listen through steel, the faint mechanical click of a tumbler finding its groove. Most safes of that era used 3 or 4 disc tumblers. A patient man with good hands and good ears could map them one by one, rotating the dial with the lightest possible pressure and reading the resistance until every notch aligned. Ramensky was patient. He was also fast. Fast enough that witnesses who later described him working said it looked less like a technical operation than a physical one. A man moving through a problem he had already solved in his head. In 1934, Glasgow CID arrested him outside a city centre jeweller's. He went to Peterhead, a prison built into a granite headland on the Aberdeenshire coast, where the North Sea hits the walls at 50 miles an hour in a winter storm, and the nearest town is 9 miles of open road. The prison had been holding Scotland's most dangerous men since 1888. Its designers had not anticipated Johnny Ramensky. He went over the wall the first time in 1934, within months of his arrival, knotted fabric thrown over the top in the pre-dawn dark, enough grip to haul himself clear before anyone reached him. He was recaptured within days on the Aberdeenshire roads, cold and without a clear destination. He escaped again in 1952, then 1958, then 1967, then 1970. 5 escapes across 4 decades. No other prisoner in Scottish penal history matched that number from Peterhead. Each time he was found within days, once within hours, cold and hungry on the open road north of Aberdeen, with nowhere particular to go. Several people who knew Ramensky later observed that he seemed to escape when the confinement became a weight rather than a sentence, when the walls pressed too close. He would go over the top, breathe the coastal air for a few days, and come back to a longer tariff. In the communities around Peterhead, he had become a fixture. The locals knew his name. When he was out, he was polite, caused no violence, stole nothing. He had never been accused of violence. In over 40 years of criminal activity, safes in banks, hotels, offices, He had never been documented to have harmed another person. He was dangerous to property and no one else, and the people who lived near Peterhead knew the difference. In 1942, an officer from No. 3 Commando, the name of the individual who authorized the approach has not appeared in any declassified file, reviewed Ramensky's prison record and made a request to the Scottish office. Ramensky was released from Peterhead, not pardoned, not freed on merit, released to a handler and given a choice that was not quite a choice. The training he received, parachute insertion, night movement, unarmed combat, was the standard commando curriculum. His contribution to it was the part he already knew. They sent him into occupied Europe, and he cracked safes for the Allies. The 1943 Rome operation was not the only one, but it is the one most consistently described in accounts of his service. The building held a large-format steel safe containing German defensive dispositions for southern Italy, troop positions, supply routes, the placement of minefields. He was inside within minutes of insertion. He found the safe by the light of a shielded torch, established the disc count by resistance, and ran the tumblers one by one. The handle turned. By one account, he cracked 14 safes across his wartime operations. The figure appears in multiple sources, but has not been confirmed in any declassified British intelligence file, and no individual operation has been catalogued in a public record. What is documented is that he served, and that he was decorated. He received the military medal. When the war ended, the state that had decorated him sent him back to Peterhead. 3 explanations have been offered for what happened next, and none of them fully resolves the question. The first is procedural. In 1945, there was no legal mechanism in Scottish or British law by which wartime service could commute a civilian sentence already handed down by a civil court. His crimes predated his recruitment. The courts that sentenced him had no obligation to the War Office, and the War Office made no recorded public request on his behalf. The file was a civil matter, and the law said so. The second explanation is colder. The available intelligence record suggests that Ramensky was used, that No. 3 Commando needed a specific technical skill for a specific campaign, found a man who had it, and when the campaign ended, had no further operational requirement for him. Not a valued operative returned to civilian life, but a one-operation asset whose file was closed. The third explanation is the most uncomfortable because it implicates Ramensky himself. Several criminologists who studied his post-war record have noted that he never made any documented attempt to leverage his wartime service in mitigation. No petition to the Secretary of State, no public statement, no lawyer's letter citing his decoration. Between 1946 and 1967, Ramensky was convicted of safecracking at a bank in Stirling in 1947, at a bookmaker's office in Edinburgh in 1955, and at a shipping company's premises in Glasgow in 1963. Each time, a single safe, a single location, no associates, no violence. The pattern across 20 years was so consistent it did not read like a criminal career. It read like a man who knew one thing and kept doing it, regardless of what it cost him. Whether he could not stop, or had simply decided not to, is a question no record answers. The 1967 escape, the fourth, came when he was 61 years old. The wall had not gotten shorter. He went over it again in 1970 at 64, was recaptured on the open road north of Aberdeen, and was returned for the last time to a cell he had spent the better part of 40 years moving in and out of. By the time of his last escape, newspapers that had covered him for decades had developed something that read less like crime reporting and more like an ongoing chronicle of a man who refused to stop being himself, regardless of what it cost him. He died on 4th December 1972 in Perth Prison. Not at Peterhead, which had been his address for most of his adult life, but at Perth, where he had been transferred for medical reasons. He was 67. He died of a stroke. He had spent over 25 years of his life inside Peterhead alone. His grave is in Glenboig, back where he started, in the mining village with the brick-dust streets, where his father died young and the men came home black. The question the British government never had to answer publicly was a straightforward one. If a man is competent enough to be parachuted into enemy territory to crack safes for his country, what exactly does it mean to send him back to prison for cracking safes for himself? No one in authority asked it on the record. No petition was filed. No clemency was sought or offered. The file closed, the cell door opened and closed behind him 5 more times, and the North Sea kept hitting the wall. If a story like this is why you're here, subscribe. We open a new file every few days.